Okay, let me ask you a question. You're sitting in an exam, the clock is just relentlessly ticking down, and boom, you hit a word in the reading passage that you literally have never seen before. What do? I mean, do you freeze up? Do you skip it and just, panic? Or do you completely shift your mindset and investigate it like a detective? Well, today we are officially putting on our detective hats. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are completely demystifying the Cambridge Checkpoint English Paper 2. We're going to crack the code of the examiner's mark scheme because, look, taking an exam isn't just about how well you read or write, it's really about understanding exactly what the person grading your paper is actually looking for. So we're going to look at the hidden patterns, the most common traps, and the exact formulas you absolutely need to maximize your score. Okay, let's dive right into this. Across thousands of past papers, the data shows us something kind of crazy. There are 3 specific questions in Cambridge Paper 2 that just eat student marks every single time. And honestly, it doesn't even matter if the passage is some creepy horror extract from Ted Hughes or, an adventure story by Michael Morpurgo. These exact same 3 question patterns constantly trip students up. They lose easy points on highly predictable questions. But today, we're putting a hard stop to that. Consider this your ultimate survival map for conquering Paper 2. We'll be hitting questions that eat marks, decoding exam question types, the 2-column secret, beating true and false in techniques, the 5-minute writing hack, and finally, how to think like an examiner. Let's get right to it. Part 1. Questions that eat marks. So, the very first mindset shift you need is realizing that this exam isn't some terrifying hurdle. It's actually just a predictable game with specific rules. And the first rule? Precision. Just think about it. Compare the door closed to the door slammed. Which one gives you a stronger picture in your head? Slammed, right? Giving highly precise answers like this is exactly what secures those elusive marks. Examiners are hunting for precise details, like numbers, units, specific qualifiers. Vague answers just leave marks sitting on the table. Moving on to Section 2, Decoding Exam Question Types. Now, what's really interesting about this is that behind every single question, there is a hidden logic code. The examiners literally build the test using these specific categories. Notice how these 4 codes instantly tell you exactly how to formulate your answer? RX stands for explicit. That basically means the answer is sitting right there in the text, you just have to find it and paraphrase it. RI is implicit, meaning inference. The answer isn't plainly stated, so you gotta use clues to guess motives or feelings. Then there's RW, which is language and structure. That one wants you to name a technique and explain its effect. And finally, RV is purpose, asking why the author wrote this and who the audience actually is. Once you recognize the question type, you instantly know the rulebook to follow. It's a total game changer. All right, let's look at Section 3, the 2-column secret. This is, without a doubt, the biggest trap on the entire paper. This trap almost always strikes on those high-value, 2-mark questions where you have to explain a concept and provide evidence. Usually this pops up on question 7 or question 9. Notice the flawed approach here. Students read the text, they understand it perfectly, but they only fill out the own words column, or they do the opposite and just drop a quote into the evidence column. If you do this, you lose the marks. Boom, gone. And this brilliantly illustrates why so many students lose points even when they completely understand the passage. The winning approach is realizing that you absolutely must fill out both. You need 2 valid points, your explanation plus the supporting quote. Leaving one blank is literally the #1 mark-losing mistake across all past papers. But hold on, what exactly does the examiner mean by own words? Well, it means do not copy the key phrase from the passage. I can't stress this enough. If you directly copy a phrase into the own words column, it will instantly cost you the mark, no exceptions. You have to rephrase it into simpler language while keeping the core meaning, the who, what, and why, exactly the same. Section 4, Beating True or False, and Techniques. Time to disarm some traps. Aside from those 2-column questions, the reading section is just packed with rapid-fire traps. So when you're faced with a true-false statement, I want you to immediately scan for absolute words. Words like only, always, never, all, every, no. Spotting these absolute words usually means the statement is false. Why? Well, because absolute words leave absolutely no room for exceptions. And in literature, there are almost always exceptions. Just one wrong detail, one tiny little exception, ruins the whole statement and makes it false.
Here is a crucial question for you, pulled straight from the mark scheme traps. True or false? Ticking 3 boxes when they explicitly ask for 2 costs you the entire mark. What do you think? The answer is true. If the exam says tick exactly 2 boxes and you tick 3 just because you aren't totally sure, you do not get partial credit. Ticking even 1 extra box completely destroys your chance at getting the point. You have to follow the instructions to the letter.
Another major trap is the technique question. When the exam asks you about the effect of a metaphor or, say, personification, students constantly make the mistake of just describing what's literally happening in the story. But effect means what the technique makes the reader feel or imagine. Does it make you feel suspense? Does it make you vividly imagine the character's terrifying isolation? So the crucial point here is you must describe the emotion it creates in the reader, not just the literal action. Similarly, when you're asked to identify genre features, you really have to zoom out. Say the story is Kensuke's Kingdom. A specific plot point is Michael is on an island. But guys, that is not a genre feature. Genre questions demand general, broad features. So if it's the adventure genre, the features are things like journeys, danger, and a brave protagonist. Do not write about the specific reading passage. Write about the genre as a whole.
Let's move to Section 5, the 5-minute writing hack. Let's see how this builds into securing those 25 marks.
This leads perfectly into Section B, the massive creative writing task that accounts for exactly half of your total marks for the entire paper. You've got 30 minutes to write an extended narrative or story. So how do we lock in those points? The answer is 5. This giant number represents the 5 minutes of planning that will literally save your entire writing score. The mark scheme explicitly states that students who skip the planning box run out of ideas, fail to use clear paragraphs, and lose big marks on text structure. So in those first 5 minutes, you need to quickly sequence these 3 steps: character, setting, and plot. Don't write full sentences here, that's a waste of time. Just jot down who your character is, describe the setting using a few quick sensory details, and outline a super simple beginning, middle, and end. Spending those 5 short minutes building this framework prevents you from freezing up halfway through, and it guarantees that your writing naturally falls into clear, logical paragraphs. Finally, Section 6, think like an examiner. We've looked at the mark scheme codes, the hidden traps, and the writing hacks. Now it's time to bring it all together. I want you to memorize this exact formula. I think blank feels blank because the text says blank. This suggests blank. This right here is the ultimate inference formula. If you're faced with a 2-mark inference question, using this exact structure is a foolproof way to construct a perfect answer. It literally forces you to state the feeling, provide the text evidence, and give the explanation, perfectly hitting every single requirement of the examiner's mark scheme. Wow, we have covered a massive amount of ground today, from the 2-column secret to hunting down absolute words to the 5-minute writing hack. So, what does this all mean for you? Which hack will you use in your next mock exam to stop losing marks? Pick one, apply it today, and watch your scores completely transform. You now have the examiner's rulebook in your hands. Go out there and investigate those questions like the detective you are. Thanks so much for joining this explainer. Keep practicing, and I'll see you next time.